All right, guys. So we don't usually talk about the things that are specifically wrong with the gaming industry. So today I actually want to talk about why so many AAA titles are shipped as broken games and what just makes them wrong. Curtis, I want to start with you. What makes you, why does that happen?
I think a lot of it is due to, pushing for a holiday release. You want to get out a certain release. Assassin's Creed, they usually every year they try to push for the big holiday, right? The big holiday release. So maybe they have a month of work to do still in the game. So, but instead they're just going to push it out to get the product out because it's a big sales day.
Colton, what kind of games have you personally felt victimized by?
Victimized?
For being broken when you got them?
The latest Assassin's Creed. The whole no-face thing. Well, it happens to everybody.
The no-face
thing,
I did not get the no-face thing. I did not get the maps. I didn't get...
But Sam, that game is buggy.
So good. It's so good. It's awesome. Great. Continue.
It's just, like Naji just said, it's buggy. You fall literally through the map because the Ubisoft, producers of the game, they want to try and get it out as soon as possible. They don't really care about, like what Kurt just said. They don't care about what the developers kind of got done. They just want to make that money.
Right. Yeah, like
they
I
care
said,
more about the money than the actual product because you can still put a patch on it and still fix it. But you still made that money on the first release.
So rather than waiting a day, because they release them on Tuesday, so rather than waiting until Wednesday, they just...
Right. I mean, GTA kind of, I remember they had a November release, but they pushed it back, then they pushed it back to March, right? When they first released it.
Yeah. Wait, so, they pushed it
back
to...
the game was, are talking about
GTA
for
5.
The original, for the last consoles, PS3 and PS4?
The original, when it first came out.
It came out September 18th.
Are you sure? Wow.
Trust me, I got the collector's one, the big box.
That's right.
But that was an example. You were talking about, what game were you mentioning earlier?
I was mentioning every game, but I don't know. What I want to talk about is that back in the day, in the PS2, Xbox days.
Back in the day.
Whatever. When you couldn't issue a day one patch for a game, if you had a bad game, you had a bad game. Right? It was broken. But now, since we have that luxury of receiving patches on the fly, I don't want to say developers are getting lazy, but publishers, they can push developers to release their game not broken, but not optimized, and rely on these patches that Assassin's Creed Unity, the patch was 40 gigs. That's...
It was more than the game.
Yeah, 40 gigs that's in some cases, that's 2 games. And to me, that's just unacceptable. If I come home to play a brand new game that I purchased while I was at work, on the go or something like that, and I come home to a broken game, that's unacceptable in 2015, in my opinion. So.
The developers and the producers are getting selfish, and you mentioned about the old games compared to new. I mean, back in the day, as old as I feel saying that, if you got the original Lion King PlayStation game, and that wasn't even PlayStation, that was Nintendo 64. But if that was bad, if you couldn't get to the giraffe's head and you were screwed, you just had to get a new game.
Yep.
Right. Now, so what games, other than Assassin's Creed Unity, which I think we can step back from, were there other games? I know we can focus on some Ubisoft if you want, like Far Cry.
Well, anything with it seems to be, because there's such a push for living worlds and open worlds, and it's just hard to put multiplayer out there without testing it first. And I think that's I don't know if they're reluctant. I know the new Halo, obviously, that they're going through a beta test.
I hope they fix them on that game.
But no, they have to be more willing to put a beta test out there because there's no way you can test that within
GTA Online. I don't think I've ever been so frustrated in my life. And I know we always get on GTA Online for what happened. Has it been a year now? Has it been a year and some change?
A bit more than a year. We're just gonna put flashbacks of last time we talked about
it's
this. The sadness.
That day, I could not sleep when I that entire night. I want to play GTA Online so bad because it was just what they promised.
It was tantalizing.
Yeah, what they promised, it was just oh God, this is really happening.
Yeah, what they did was they didn't release the multiplayer right off the bat. So you got GTA, so you're playing through a really good story. One of the best stories I ever played.
It didn't need a multiplayer. Like, if they decided to go without multiplayer, they could have been.
Oh
well
yeah, they would have been
without
fine. I thought. It was that good.
I do think though that they have been making up for it, and obviously you get the PC gamers that are very upset because Rockstar, I think, doesn't want to make that same mistake where they release a broken game, and so that's why they've been pushing it off a lot. But they have been pushing it out for a PC release
including
until
Heist. They probably want to make sure that's perfect too.
exactly.
Like what Kurt said about beta testing. They didn't really beta test GTA online.
I don't think Rockstar's ever beta tested any
anything
games.
ever.
And what happened is I got GTA like on the day it came out, and I'm playing it, waiting for that little countdown for you can get on online. And they're like, oh, we're prepared, we're ready. And then you get online, everything just goes downhill.
It was like that with the next gen one too. When I got it for PS4, I put it on and I was like, let's go online.
Yeah, it was out for like
And-
2-3 weeks.
And
almost.
then the loading screens are still like terrible.
Oh yeah, it's still buggy. I'm still having problems with it
Yeah.
now.
So would beta testing be good, do you think, only, and any of you guys are free to respond to this, I know Kurt's mentioned it, would beta testing only be good with online games, or do you think it could have benefits for a game that's generally more single player focused?
In the Assassin's Creed Unity thing, I don't think beta testing would have did anything with that. That game wasn't optimized. That game is like it can't even hit 30 frames per second consistently. Like there's so many people on this.
look more like a movie.
But there's so many people on the screen that it's like it's always laggy. Like even without all the no face bugs falling through the map, it's so laggy and slow. Like that's not, you know, it being bad on content. It's not optimized the right way. They didn't put it through the ringer in the testing phase. It's not optimized.
So you're more on the side of laziness.
Yeah, like it's just come on. Like, to me, with these games that come out every year, I'm not with that at all. Like you releasing these games every year it's not efficient.
And then you get the games like, for example, for you,
Call of
like,
Duty Ghost.
We're not even gonna touch that. That's for an entirely different discussion. But no, you get ones like Metal Gear Solid, for example, in your case, where it's not an annual release necessarily. It's every couple years, but it's like they ship solid games.
And so there's two different types of games. You have those AAA games that appeal to mainstream media, like Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, that anybody could pick up. Then you have the games like Bayonetta 2 or Metal Gear Solid that they're mainstream, but they have a core fan base who doesn't mind waiting 3 or 4 years down the line for a good installment.
Because the game that they already have is still replayable.
Exactly. Like I can play Metal Gear Solid 3 over and over again because it's a great game that doesn't age. So
I mean, and then you do get the certain like niche games that are more well known. Like Tam, for example, can play I know he'll play Bayonetta and he'll play any of the Devil May Cry games consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Those games tend to not have the problems, but then it's the mainstream.
Yeah, it's the most multiplayer games that usually have the problem.
I think we've all come to the general agreement, though, that it's mostly just selfishness and greed.
But I mean, it's not like the demand's not high. I mean, Call of Duty sells pretty well every
but
year.
it sells to 12-year-old boys.
But I mean, the demand's there, so they're gonna keep pushing it
Yeah,
out.
they're not gonna stop.
Eventually, like hopefully, maybe what'll happen is people will stop day one buys.
They're
there's-
gonna keep making money no matter what.
yeah, I mean that's why it starts with the consumer.
Yeah.
Like if we keep shoving money into these unfinished products and not saying anything about it, they're not going to change. So I mean that's my opinion on it.
I think that makes the most sense. But I guess we'll just have to wait forward to 2015 and see if anything changes.
Yeah.
Metal Gear.
I know.